However, Putin has no intention of stopping, and everything points to that. This was stated by the head of the Main Intelligence Directorate, Kirill Budanov. Russia plans to spend over $1 trillion on rearmament. This concerns the period up to the year 2036. And this is the most large-scale armament program of the aggressor country since the collapse of the Soviet Union. The head of the Main Intelligence Directorate is convinced the enemy is preparing for an even bigger war and is now mobilizing all its resources for it, expanding the number of military districts, increasing its influence in Africa, including through proxy groups such as the Wagner PMC and the African Corps. There is also an increase in the number of information and cyber attacks around the world, aimed at undermining democracies from within. And also, as soon as tomorrow, Ukraine is planning another meeting with the Russian side in Turkey. President Zelensky announced this, citing information from the newly appointed Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, Rustem Umerov. He will be the one to lead the Ukrainian delegation. Representatives from intelligence, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the President's office will also travel to Istanbul. At the same time, preparations are underway for a new prisoner exchange. Zelensky promised to share more details later. On July 4th, the 8th stage of the exchange took place. It was carried out according to the all-for-all formula in the categories of seriously ill prisoners and those under 25 years old. Since then, Russia has stalled the process, which had become virtually the only outcome of the June negotiations in Istanbul. An explosion at one of Russia's largest gas processing and petrochemical enterprises. The attack on the Novokyvyshevsk company in the Samara region was reported by the Ukrainian Center for Countering Disinformation. The Russian enterprise is part of the production chain of the military-industrial complex. There, they produce raw materials for explosives that are used for equipping, including shells and missiles. There are also reports of an attack on the Milarovo airfield in the Rostov region. From there, the enemy regularly launches shahids at Ukraine. In Estonia, a court found guilty of espionage a Russian citizen who lived in Narva, on the border with Russia. Pavel Kapustin was accused of gathering intelligence against Estonia and submitting false information to state authorities. In addition, as the investigation established, the man knowingly agreed to cooperate with Russian special services and transported sanctioned goods there on request, including luxury items. The court sentenced him to 6.5 years in prison and, at the request of the prosecution, ordered the confiscation of property worth almost 90,000 euros. The Netherlands will make a significant contribution to supplying Ukraine with Patriot air defense systems. This was announced by Defense Minister Ruben Brekelmans following the results of an online meeting in the Ramstein format. The official did not specify the exact amount of the contribution, only saying that the details are being worked out and will be made public soon. The Netherlands will also independently supply more air defense equipment. This includes ammunition for F-16s, counter-drone systems, and radars. Norway has also confirmed its intention to finance the purchase of a Patriot missile system for Ukraine. They will do this together with Germany. Berlin, by the way, announced that it had reached an agreement with the United States to provide 5 air defense systems to the Ukrainian army. Overall, both before and after Ramstein, dozens of Ukraine's allies decided to launch a 50-day campaign to arm the country. The goal is to make Vladimir Putin interested in real negotiations when the deadline set for him by the US president expires.
The special tribunal that will consider the crime of Russian aggression against Ukraine has moved from being just an idea to becoming a real undertaking. This week, Parliament ratified the agreement with the Council of Europe regarding its establishment. So, what are the next steps? When can we expect the court to appear in The Hague, and who will it judge? TSN correspondent Natalia Yarmala looked into it.
Ukraine has come one step closer to launching the special tribunal. This week, Parliament unanimously ratified the agreement with the Council of Europe on its establishment. The next step is to adopt changes to our laws and sign an expanded agreement with the participating countries. The President is asking for this to be done urgently to speed up the creation of the court. Anton Karinovic, Director of the Department of International Law at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, told TSN.
Now all our efforts will be focused on the third element of the package, the establishment of the governing committee of the special tribunal. The governing committee will be something like an assembly of states parties, where all the countries that wish to support the special tribunal will be represented. That is, it will no longer be just between two entities, as is currently the case with the agreement between Ukraine and the Council of Europe, but rather a multilateral mechanism. And accordingly, the governing committee will be responsible for all matters of administration and financing of the special tribunal's work.
Immediately after this, practical steps will be taken, selecting premises in The Hague, recruiting staff, judges, prosecutors, and cases for the top criminals of the aggressor country. More than 40 countries are involved in this process, and not just from the European Union. But as for when exactly the tribunal will be fully staffed and begin its practical work, Anton Karinovic is not rushing to name specific dates.
The sooner, the better. We hope that this won't take much time and that we'll complete this stage within a reasonable time frame. We are now seeing the political will of our partner countries to move forward on this issue. I think that we will also get through this next, final stage quite quickly and efficiently.
There hasn't been a tribunal like this since Nuremberg, when the Nazi leadership was put on trial. Until now, no dictator or their accomplices have ever been held accountable for the crime of aggression, that is, for the very decision to start a war and cross the Ukrainian border. This court will be able to begin its work without waiting for the fighting at the front to end, and will be able to try the criminals in absentia. And not just Russians, but also individuals from other countries involved in the aggression. There could be around 20 such people. The final number of defendants will be determined by the tribunal's judges. However, this court is not able to bypass the so-called immunity of the trio, the head of state, the head of government, and the foreign minister. This means that while crimes committed by Putin, Lavrov, and Michelin can be investigated, they cannot be prosecuted as long as they hold their positions. Human rights advocate Alexandra Romantsova is convinced even just investigating their crimes is a powerful political blow.
It cannot officially conclude and press formal charges, but it can indeed conduct a thorough public investigation and clearly show that yes, we have definitively proven this particular point, this specific aspect, and this crucial element, and that comprehensive demonstration can significantly help us in our broader political interactions and engagements. And the legal focus, well, the legal endpoint will come when he leaves that position.
But Putin's criminals, officials, generals, and propagandists have no immunity whatsoever. So The Hague is already waiting for them. Natalia Yarmola, Volodymyr Ostapenko, TSN, 1+1, Marathon, United News.
They took everything. Hundreds of copied terabytes of data, full access to the internal analytics network and servers, and the data of nearly 20,000 users along with their digital signatures. These are the consequences of yesterday's hack of Gazprom's information system. The hack was carried out by hackers from the Main Intelligence Directorate. And on one of Gazprom's pages, an owl even appeared. This is the symbol of our intelligence officers. The Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense claims that the cyber operation will complicate transportation and gas supply in entire regions of the Russian Federation. After all, Ukraine destroyed the records of contracts, schedules, and tariffs of the corporation, including data on who needs to be supplied with how much gas and oil. The data from systems that control pressure, consumption, and balances of gas and oil have been erased. The databases of more than 390 subsidiaries and branches of Gazprom have been removed. And most importantly, Ukrainian hackers deleted all this information even from the backup copies. So this could seriously undermine the position of the main sponsor of Russian terrorism and cause its stock price to crash.